Good evening and welcome to the Village of Westmont Village Board meeting for October 3rd, 2011. Would our clerk please take the roll call to begin our meeting?
Mayor Ron.
Here.
The clerk's here. Trustee Emery is absent tonight. Trustee Fleming.
Here.
Trustee Klebanow.
Here.
Trustee Nero.
Here.
Trustee Scott.
Here.
Trustee Seneca.
Here.
Manager Searle.
Here.
Attorney Zemanek.
Here.
Fire Chief Trout. Here. Economic Development Director and Assistant Manager Kimball.
Here.
Acting Finance Director Parker.
Here.
Deputy Police Chief Gunther.
Here.
Village Planner and Assistant Economic Development Director Malik. Human Resource Administrator Casey.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item are the minutes of the September 19th Combined Committee of the Whole and Village Board meeting. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve Seneca?
Second, Scott.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Moving right along, Mayor, the only comment I'd like to make this evening is the Westmont High School won their homecoming game last Friday evening. It was quite a spectacular game under the lights, which are working beautifully. They played Seneca.
No relation.
In relation to Sue Seneca. But it was a great game, and I would also like to mention that the junior high school and senior high school bands were both there and did an excellent job of performing at the homecoming game on Friday night. So we were elated to see them win and made for a wonderful weekend for all the homecoming goers for Westmont High School. Congratulations. And moving right along, our village clerk.
First, I'd like to ask our Fire Chief Trout to come up. He needs to tell everyone about Fire Prevention Week next week.
Thank you. We have our annual open house on October the 11th. That's Tuesday, October the 11th. It starts approximately 6:30, and it'll run until 8:30 p.m. that night. We like to welcome the entire village board along with all of our residents, and they usually have a fun evening there. Last couple of years we've been averaging a few hundred people that come out, and hopefully this year it'll be a beautiful weather and be able to watch some of our demonstrations. That's Tuesday night, October the 11th, starting at 6:30 p.m. And then we have our annual silent parade, which leaves Hinsdale Fire Department, and that's the following Friday. And it travels eastbound on Chicago Avenue to Cass, and then westbound on Naperville Road to the village limits. And it's an annual event which we encourage all the village residents to come out to. As they stand along the parade route, they have candles and flashlights, lanterns to signify the light of the world. We've been doing this now for approximately 11 years, and it's an event that's put on by the Westmont, Clarendon Hills, Hinsdale, and Downers Grove, and Lisle Woodridge fire districts. It ends at Trinity Lutheran Church in Lisle, and at that point they have a ceremony which the public is invited to also. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And the only other thing I had was to welcome Trustee Klebanow back and to remind our residents that a week from today, Monday, October 10, the Village Hall will be closed to the public. The employees will all be here doing their cleanup. It's one of our cleanup days where we get a lot of work cleaned up that needs to be done. So they're here working, but Village Hall is closed to the public. So just wanted everybody to know that. Thank you.
Our village attorney, John Zemanek.
Trustee Klebanow, great to see you back.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't have anything to report tonight, Mayor.
Village manager, Ron Searle.
Welcome back to Trustee Klebanow as well. Also, I wanted to mention that late this afternoon I got an agreement from the fire department. A couple of years ago we had put in a request through State Representative Belloc to replace one of our emergency sirens. And we just learned recently that has been funded, and we've received this grant agreement from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. We need to execute this right away in order to take advantage of this funding. But what I'd like to do is put this on the next agenda for your retroactive approval. So it's good news.
Is it fully funded?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
No problem passing that.
That's
Which
all I have.
siren?
Okay.
Pardon?
Which one?
I believe it's the one by Twin Lakes. Is that correct, Chief?
There's two sirens that we're looking at, and we're going to take the recommendation of what our maintenance reports revealed to us. One would be that we're looking at is Twin Lights, and the other one is at the water plant. They're approximately 20 years old plus. And then we're going to look at all the maintenance records and see which one needs to be replaced, and do it by age and then also by what kind of shape it's in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along, unfinished business. Smart Grid Legislation Board to consider a resolution opposing the current State Bill 1652, ComEd Smart Grid legislation. We have a motion.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Nero.
We have a motion in 2 seconds.
Or
On the
two
question.
motions in a second.
Two motions.
Did you second that, Pat? Did you second it? No. You did, okay. I was trying to figure, but Trustee Scott gave it to Trustee Fletcher, so okay.
The guy.
What a guy.
One motion, 2 seconds.
So,
Okay. Any last minute comments? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
A graffiti spray paint sale ordinance. Or to consider an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances regarding graffiti removal, and restricting the retail display and sale of spray paint.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Fleming.
I got a comment actually on that. The survey that Chief gave to us on Friday showed that only 2 cans were stolen at Hobby Lobby. All the other stores had none. I just think it's a better use of our officers' time rather than to have them enforce the retail outlets to be restricting the sale of it, having them locked in a cabinet. I think we can have the business owners take charge. The gentleman from Ace Hardware came here last Thursday. He sounded committed to it. The only problematic store is the Hobby Lobby that said they 2 cans were stolen. I think they understand it's an issue. We know it's an issue. If we give the business owners an opportunity before we force them to buy some sort of display to lock up the spray cans, I think we can give them this opportunity before we have to pass this ordinance to make them do that as well. I understand the IDing, I understand having it in their eyesight, but to have them build a cabinet just to house the spray cans, I think is a little overkill. And at inception, I think we can give them an opportunity to do it themselves, give them the responsibility first. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I just think it's a little overkill. Only 2 cans were stolen.
Well,
2 that we know of.
Right.
yeah, I've wrestled with this thing for the last 3 days. Honest to God, this is probably out of a lot of things we've done. I've wrestled with this one off and on. On one side of it, I'm opposed to the scenario of forcing businesses to have to, because of a few bad apples and people who have no regard for anything that goes on, put them in a situation to have to put things under lock and key. The other side of it is, granted, if you put the onus on them to card people or teenagers, 9 times out of 10, the young people that are at the register are probably high school kids or whatever that are under the age of 18, and I'm not sure that there wouldn't be an intimidation factor of someone coming up and saying, making comments or whatever. Who knows? I mean, even if they bother to buy it. The other thing is I have to question, no business is going to give you a factual theft report. It's not going to happen. It's just not, because no business wants to admit theft. I mean, the only thing that I could say at this point would be that I think it's something, if we say yes to putting the spray paint under lock and key, there needs to be a reasonable amount of time to allow the businesses to put these cabinets into place. And I guess the time frame, that would be the question. What would the time frame be? Would it be 6 months? Would it be 8 months? I mean, I wouldn't think that it could be any longer than that. I don't know. But until it's becoming more and more of a problem, and it's unfortunate. And at one point, if you remember back when they had the smoking ordinances and that, it was each town had to make its decision based on whether or not they wanted to allow it or not allow it, and then finally the state finally said, that's it, we're done, nobody. Hoping maybe that something like this gets down to Springfield and they make a decision on this, because it's becoming a problem. I mean, I don't know.
I do think locking it up is a little bit of overkill. The initial survey indicated that I think 100% of the businesses surveyed said they check IDs. And, we do the same thing for cigarettes, we do the same thing for liquor, but yet we don't lock those items up. Believe me, if a teenager wants to get a can of spray paint, they're going to go to their neighbor's garage, they're going to go over to Downers Grove that doesn't have this requirement, or to another community. They're going to get it. I hate to put our small business owners in a position of having to spend even more money. What I'd like to see is to really tighten up on the checking the IDs and have our police officers go in once in a while, just as we do with liquor and cigarettes, and test them and see if it's being adhered to. I just don't see that it would be 100% effective, and I hate to have them spend that kind of money if it's not a guaranteed 100% effective.
And I think now the businesses understand that we know it's an issue, that we're concerned about it, and that we're going to do everything we can about it. But I also think that it's our responsibility to give them an opportunity to tackle it on themselves, to be able to, I don't want to say police it themselves, but be able to be responsible businessmen and take care of it on their own. I think this is a minute problem that they can oversee with ID, and they know that we're watching, and if we give them maybe a reasonable amount of time, 3, 4, 5 months, and it's still a terrible problem, well, at least we gave them their opportunity to do their due diligence and to be the business owners we want in town. But to have the Ace Hardware get a case for their huge selection of spray paint, is pretty costly. Any way you look at it, it's costly. And, that's someone's paycheck that they could also be paying, have another employee, where now we're restricting and hindering businesses in town. I don't think we need to do that.
Can we ask if the deputy chief has any opinion on this?
In talking about the problem or the issue, if we look at the numbers on number of occurrences, we've had 21 instances in July. Since July, we've had 5. So for the calendar year, and maybe a little bit before, we've had 2 waves where we've seen an uptick in graffiti December and the beginning of January, and then it lulled, and then it picked back up in July. Now we're back in a lull. So, to classify the problem as chronic, I don't know if we're there. I think we're on top of the situation. We're doing everything we can to, from a law enforcement perspective. So, I stand here representing the chief, and I think that he would say that we'll enforce whatever your wishes are. We certainly could do compliance checks. We do alcohol checks. We do tobacco checks. We certainly could add this to the list of things that we can check. Not a problem. But we're up for your direction. So
why don't we give them a 6-month trial and see if they can self-police it, like you were saying? At the end of 6 months, if we see an uptake and...
Yeah, it's not, just from the numbers you said,
fair.
and I don't know if that's historic, every year it goes down in the fall months, but since this has been an issue the past month and a half, things have quieted, thank God. But
Well, there's usually incidents that start this whole thing, too.
yeah.
sure, we were actually kind of surprised looking at the data that we did have. You think it'd be a seasonal issue, but we were hit pretty hard in December, which kind of shocked us. July, it's hot, kids are out of school. There's certainly a lot of reason for that to happen in the month of July, but yeah, right now we're seeing it ebbing and flowing. So right now we're on the downswing of the activity.
What I was looking at, and after listening to the meeting and then reading the information in our packet and stuff, I guess what bothered me was if it was a really bad theft problem, I would think the business would lock it up or find some way to control it. So obviously a few cans here and there, they're not concerned about it. Probably costs more to try to prosecute the kids than it does to, pick up the loss. When I was reading this, it talked about spray paint containers, paint, ink, marking pens, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, when are we going to start banning and asking them to, start locking up permanent markers and stuff that kids need for school? And it's like it's getting kind of out of control. We're trying to solve a problem, but are we actually making it worse? And it's, you talked about the intent to use such materials. Well, if you see a kid walking down the street with a permanent marker, now you got to try to figure out what the intent of the kid was at that time. I just had little problems with trying to figure out how to, truthfully enforce it and fairly and stuff. Also in here, though, they do talk about, I don't know how you would do it if you take it out, because you do talk about the cleanup in here as well. If that stays input about, the ordinance on cleaning up. And I did check with the insurance company, and a lot of people may not realize that a lot of insurance companies will cover the graffiti cleanup. It's part of vandalism. So, I was very concerned with our senior citizens, and then enforcing a code like this, saying, well, you have to clean up at a certain time. And I'm looking at the seniors on my block thinking, if they don't have family or friends in town, how are they going to do it? So I called up the insurance company, and they said that's, usually falls under that category, so it would work. But, so I don't know. I just started thinking we're locking up paint. Now we're going to lock up markers. Then who knows what we're going to lock up, because these kids keep finding different things to use. Yeah. And at some point, it's a loss for us who have to clean it up, but it should also be a fairly good loss to the stores if they're ripping off that much. I think the kids are getting it more than just the stores. Open garages, mom and dad's, paint sitting around, out in the
friends
garbage.
That are 20.
Out in the garbage, people throw this stuff out. So, yeah, I wasn't comfortable with forcing them, but I was going to suggest if you wanted to put a decent time span to allow them to prepare the cost of having it locked up. But if you guys want to just let it go for now, that's fine. But if we do enforce it, I do think we need to give the businesses a certain time span to get them to lock it up. But I don't know if that's going to be the answer, because they're going to go to Clarendon Hills, they're going to go to Downers.
They're going to get it.
The two places I could find that have ordinances prohibiting or actually have it locked up is Bensonville and Aurora, are the two closest municipalities I could find that actually have it on the books.
I didn't get out to the store. I was curious. I guess they used to do it years ago, maybe not now, but couldn't you used to be able to pick up a can of spray paint or something similar, at a Osco's, Dominic's? Has anybody tried those places to see if they sell that stuff?
I don't think they sell spray paint.
I've not seen
it. Be able to just about get anything there.
I've not seen it, but when this time of year, they even sell the spray color that the kids put in their hair at Halloween. Yeah. Now,
They might
granted,
sell
that's
that
going to
too.
wash off, but it could certainly be used for graffiti. I'm not giving you any ideas on that. But,
Well, that's
you know,
water soluble, and this only addresses products that aren't water soluble.
But even water
exactly.
soluble,
My point is I can still find a way
even
to
water
deface
soluble has a
things.
tendency to leave
Yeah.
a stain. You know, sometimes I've seen the stuff. I tried to put that stuff on windows one time where you can, you know, draw and do something on your windows, and you're supposed to be able to clean it. And man, I was scrubbing forever. Couldn't get that stuff off. Never used it again.
Yeah.
So can we look at it in 6 months, but can we make sure that the ordinance for the cleanup at least,
Yeah, do that.
that part of it?
And checking the
Or do we have
IDs
to-
and,
Yeah.
IDs and cleanups.
Certainly, we can look at it in 6 months. That's your prerogative. My question is, as originally drafted, it either had to be locked up or within plain view. Do you want no restrictions at this point and evaluate it in 6 months? Because I don't know where Hobby Lobby, for example, has it stored.
Well,
We know
it's-
Ace testified theirs is in plain view, but I
It's
don't know
in,
about
it's in a back aisle. Maybe plain view would be the way to go right now.
That's how.
I
Or
can't
leave
tell
it
you that the Hobby
and or-
Lobby specifically is looking at a surveillance video camera system for the first time ever, so at least from an overall store perspective, they're going to be installing cameras for the first time.
Or leave it and or locked up or in plain view.
yeah, that's a thought.
One good thing that concerned me on this is I think that probably there are probably some young people out there 18 years old that are doing this. So, you know,
Yep. I don't think the
I don't think it
under is
stops at,
necessary. Yeah.
I got a question about
As soon as they
the
turn
numbers. Do you have information that indicates that there are repeat offenders? Can you relate
I would say that
by what they're doing?
Sure. I would say that we do have repeat offenders. I think we have a core group of people that are committing these acts repeatedly.
Okay.
So the answer to that is yes.
When you look at that, the total numbers, that reduces the total numbers of individuals that are actually.
Sure. We could take the sum of the incidents and we can reduce it probably to a core group of people.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That's a definite point to look at too. If there's only a few people that are doing a lot of it, and I know you've told me that you're doing a lot of work in that area right now.
Yes.
Well, if the ordinance, the way it's written right now, is either plain view or locked up, I don't foresee a problem with it being in plain view. That's better than being tucked away in an aisle. So that would mean that we could still go ahead, but then also state in 6 months, we'd find out where we are, and then it might be a case that it's no longer plain view, it's lock and key.
Yeah.
Sure. We can definitely look at it.
There's no cost
John,
in really
would
putting it in
that
plain view
be,
if all I
would
have to do
that
is
be a
move it.
case? I mean, as the ordinance sits right now, it's either lock or
different
key
aisle.
or plain sight, right?
Right now, well, that's how it was originally.
Okay.
And then, based on some comments, it was switched to just locked up.
All right.
And that's what the discussion then was about last Thursday.
Okay.
So now we can go back to locked up or in plain view
Okay.
and evaluate it in 6 months.
Okay.
That makes sense. That's good.
So there's at least one retailer who will have to rearrange their merchandise. Would you also want in there locked up in plain view or subject to constant video surveillance during store hours?
I'm fine with that. The
Yeah.
camera's on it all the time. That's fine.
It's pretty much the same thing as plain view.
Yeah.
Probably be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
As long as
Yeah,
they
it's
keep
better,
the
you're right.
tape. Not just have a camera, but I want
Yeah, it
that
is
tape
better.
because that shows who's doing it then. They actually got
That
who's
serves
doing
as
it.
a deterrent also if they advertise they've got video surveillance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With the cleanup, I know Trustee Klebanow, you had some concerns about the requirement that an owner clean up. Certainly if it's an elderly person, there's a provision in the ordinance that would allow them to contact the village, say they don't have the means or the physical or other ability to clean it up, and consent to have the village come onto their property, clean it up, and invoice them and or lien their property. So, and then, of course, if they can get insurance reimbursement, all the better.
I was wondering too, under the restitution, it talked about how, if, I guess, provided they catch the person, that they have to, pay back or pay restitution. I was wondering if you have to show in there or to their insurance company who, in case it wasn't the homeowner but the insurance, who might have paid for the cleanup. I didn't know if it mattered.
No, I don't.
I'm not the attorney on that end, so I don't know how the insurance company would handle it. If we say we pay the homeowner and the insurance paid
they'd
it.
have a right of subrogation against the homeowner if the homeowner received reimbursement.
Okay.
So they could come back after the fact and say, aha, you got paid for this. You owe us now.
Okay, so leave it up to the insurance company to worry about that then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as
It's
we have
either
a way.
locked up or in plain view.
That works. Video.
Or under surveillance.
Or under constant video surveillance. Everybody's comfortable with that?
That's good.
Yes.
It works.
Okay. Okay, is there any other further questions? Roll call.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Thank you. Next hour, curfew hours ordinance. Or to consider an ordinance that would change curfew hours and raise the maximum age to 17.
Motion to approve, Fleming.
Second, Nero.
Discussion.
Chief Mulhern called me, asked if the board would agree to a 2-week time period before the effective date of this ordinance when the police would start enforcing it. So the ordinance says October 17th as the effective date. That's 2 weeks from today, and that would give the police department an opportunity to educate the public about this change in the law.
That's good.
Good idea.
How can you enforce this? I mean, in other words, when I was looking at the towns and their ages, and like Downers Grove and stuff, there's a 16 and under. So what happens if their 17-year-old crosses? Because our streets are split. One side is Downers, the other side is Westmont. So he crosses across the street to visit his friend in Westmont, and he's against violation?
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's just like
We got-
any kind of ordinance. If someone were to come into the
Person I
town
ran.
and go against one of those ordinances, or red light, we have the red light, and some towns don't. So
That's when I guess you say it's up to the parents to let their kids know what the requirements are.
But you've also got officers' discretion on that.
Yeah.
He's living across the street.
Either that or the one on the Westmont side has to learn to cross over. No, he'd still be in violation. I don't know. It just seems weird because this is going to be so weird having, I don't see any town surrounding us that has a 17. And it just really freaks me out to think of, that 1 year difference from the surrounding towns. Nobody around us. And we have kids who are going to school south of 55th Street in other communities, and their kids are going to be able to stay out till 17. I mean, 17 and older, and our kids, have to be in the house. It just, I'm not comfortable with it, but, and I don't really think that 1 year is going to make that much difference, but
there's
it
a lot
would
of
if all the
exceptions.
towns does.
There's a lot of exceptions too: school, work, family. So, and at the officer's discretion, and with the police department's education, talking to the surrounding community school districts, I think the extra 2 weeks will give them ample time to educate them. And hey, I was there once, and you just have to know the rules.
Yeah, but it's easy when all the rules are the same in all the neighboring towns and your friends in different. Who
Yeah,
might
but
be
not all the
same
towns are the
district.
same.
I was writing notes.
No, but most of them around us are right up ours.
maybe they'll change and go to what we're
They
coming up
probably
with.
will change eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll actually lead the pack on this one on something for a change.
2 points to make on this is that the ordinance is drafted mirrors the Illinois graduated driver's licensing guidelines, so it'll be the same as that. And secondly, by state law, the state has now recognized 17-year-olds as juveniles for misdemeanors, and they're still considered adults as if they commit a felony, but we're really keeping them in what Illinois state law is pushing toward with raising the age from 16 to 17.
Well, even though the driver's license does it, the Illinois law still says 16. But the driver's license says 17, so they're still in conflicting of each other too, so.
True.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow?
No.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Next item, automated traffic law enforcement system. Board to consider a motion authorizing the continued use of the automated traffic law enforcement system, red light photo enforcement, with a subsequent review of said system in 12 months.
So move, Seneca.
Second, Scott.
On the question? Hearing no questions, roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Are the people here for item number 11, 405 South Oak? With the board's permission, I'd like to have you come forward so you don't have to sit here any longer
Why do we have them see it?
and present your case.
Thank you very much,
One
and
more
welcome
time.
back, Trustee Klebanow. I apologize. I didn't know I could be here last week, and if I would have known, I would have been. I came last to the open forum and requested a permission to review the portion of the patio to be in pavers because of the grade issue, and that's the reason for my visit this evening.
Okay.
Would you like to see a copy once more of what it looks like?
We have it in our package. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from board members? Hearing no questions.
I guess just one clarification. I'm sorry. If this is approved, it's the board's direction that this is to be semi-permeable pavers as opposed to a concrete patio? Okay. Just want to clarify.
And let me, so I understand correctly, I've already applied for a permit to have part of it as a deck.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Part of it is a deck and part of it
Right.
permeable.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Okay, do we have a
So move, Seneca.
Second, Nero.
second?
We do now.
Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
No.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow?
No.
Motion passed.
Okay,
Passes.
it passes. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Good evening.
Once again, after all the time and effort and money you've put into this, it looks,
It's a beautiful home. You've
Looks beautiful.
Done incredible things.
thank you. Just don't go walking around in his backyard at night with your flashlight. Thank you.
On that.
Going back to new business. 206 East Richmond zoning code variance request. Board to consider an ordinance approving a zoning code variance to allow for lot coverage greater than 35% for the purposes of constructing a swimming pool.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Nero.
Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow?
Yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Next item, 333 East Ogden, zoning code variance request. Board to consider an ordinance approving a zoning code variance to increase the number of allowable signs.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Nero.
The question? Roll call.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Next item, 1801 35th Street zoning code variance request. Board to consider an ordinance approving a zoning code variance to permit more than 3 antennas on a structure.
So move, Seneca?
Second, Scott.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
6424 South Cass, special use permit request. Board to consider an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a Montessori school in the B2 General Business District.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Nero.
Discussion? No questions, Pat?
I was thinking about this one, but no, it'll be fine.
Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Okay. Next item, 110 East Chicago's special use permit request. Board to consider an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate an auto glass and upholstery business in the B2 General Business District.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Nero.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Okay. Andy Frayne Services. Board to consider an ordinance approving an agreement with Andy Frayne Services to supply crossing guard staff.
Motion to approve, Fleming.
Second, Nero.
Discussion?
Yes. Sorry about that. I do have some questions on this. It struck me that the difference, besides what we're saving on the FICA and things like that, their hourly salary is the same. We save because we don't have to pay the FICA. Is that correct? That's where the difference was on your scale of 1250 to 13.
And fewer hours they're being paid for.
1350. We showed on Andy Frayne 1250 pay rate, and on ours we show 1353, and that difference just has to do with the FICA. And
I don't believe that it's just the FICA.
I mean, well, whatever's added on. I'm saying that it's a 1250. They're still getting $12.50 an hour. The hourly rate is the same, right?
The hourly rate is the same, correct.
Okay. But now, instead of getting guaranteed 1 hour, whether they're out for half an hour or 45 minutes, they are going to be paid strictly by?
For the hours worked, for the time worked.
Okay. I went through and looked over this list of the places that are serving them. Carroll Stream, West Chicago, Bolingbrook, Oak Park, Lombard. I don't know where their people are coming from, but I have a really hard problem thinking that somebody's going to come from some neighboring place, West Chicago or someplace, for 45 minutes for $12.50 an hour when it could cost them $4 to $8 in gas.
They're going, no, those communities already had some crossing guards, and their own crossing guards were hired.
Right.
And same thing will
But they're
happen
supposed
for
to sub
Westmont.
if we're short. So if we're short of a crossing guard.
Right.
Where are we getting these crossing guards from?
That's up to Andy Frayne.
I know, but I'm saying that if this is where they're pulling their crossing guards because they got crossing guards, plus they probably have extra like we try to have extra. These crossing guards are coming from, I mean, the closest one is Lombard or Bolingbrook. I don't care. I mean, if they were that close to us, I think they would have applied to us for a job.
Kathy, I thought when we talked about this initially at the committee level, they said that their employees are cross-trained. So that, that person might not be a regular crossing guard. They might be an usher in a theater, but they're trained to be a crossing guard. So they might be able to get someone closer to our location to come and fill in. Likewise, our crossing guards could be trained to be like an usher in a theater. That was what I understood from the committee meeting.
That's also true. And then the other piece that we need to keep in mind, too, is that we have a supervisor that's dedicated to our town and our crossing guards. And if all else fails and they can't get a person,
They come.
they come.
This agreement can be terminated in 30 days, so if the services are not working out, we can revert to the old system or something brand new.
It just struck me for the 5 clients that they put on here, I mean, all of them have tons of crossing guards, 34 guards, 28 guards, even 12, 22 guards, from the 5 that they chose from. It just seems, that we're down so low compared to the others. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with this. Also, they showed the Daily Herald, Lombard outsources crossing guards for, $85,000. I'm looking at what is our heading. So it just...
Well, I guess the reason was, why are we doing this?
Did you ever
what was the reason we went to Andy Frayne?
The reason that we brought it up again was because of the turnover.
Staffing.
Okay. Did you ever think of mutual aid with our neighboring towns and their crossing guards? We do it for the fire. We do it for police. You guys go help each other out. You get calls and to other towns and stuff. Have we ever tried it for crossing guards? Because they have to have so many crossing guards plus maybe a couple extra should somebody call in sick. And before I go out outsourcing something like this, I was just wondering, have we tried?
Well, the difficulty is that the calling in is usually very last minute. And to try to get someone at the last minute, that's why we're usually using the CSO or our own police officers.
Two related issues to that is, first of all, when someone can't fill in, when we can't find anyone, it's a police officer or CSO officer, right, that we oftentimes may be paying overtime to or otherwise pulling them off the street. So that's an additional cost. Secondly, these people that we do hire currently are employees of the village. So when they leave their posts, they're eligible to make an unemployment claim. And if we start pulling more and more people, even from different villages, they're employees, they can all be filing for unemployment when their services are no longer needed or when they simply quit. So that's the advantage to having an independent contractor provide the staffing, with the hope being that they're, in most cases, residents.
And the other thing, the other liability, possible liability, is that if they got injured while they were working here, we could have a possible workers' comp claim.
Well, why don't we just start outsourcing the rest of the village then, so we don't have to worry about comp claims and overtime and unemployment and.
But that's the reality of it.
It's just, I don't know, I'm uncomfortable thinking about something so personable with the children. And
They can all go to work for them. That's the thing. They can get hired by
guards that you have now.
I understand that.
It's just that
Yeah,
they're
I
not
understand
going
that.
to be employed by the village.
So we're just putting somebody else in charge and telling them to worry about who's coming in at the last minute. No, I for the $4,800 savings, I just don't know yet if I like the idea.
What's the alternative then?
Keep what we have and start looking at possibly our neighboring towns and seeing if they have the same problem, and we can start sharing. If they have 5 crossing guards, they must have 1 or 2 others that fill in when a crossing guard is sick. And if we start sharing our crossing guards like that, maybe we could. It would be a savings. I don't know. I don't know what they pay, but I just questioned if we even checked into such a thing. We do mutual with fire. We do mutual with police.
Well, there's a difference when you can get on a radio and call for help right away. But when you've got somebody who doesn't show up for work or isn't going to be there, then they have to start calling around people, and how far do they have to drive to get here? Where when the Andy Frayne, it's that supervisor's responsibility to be here if he can't get anybody.
Your Honor, if I may, DuPace Mayors and Managers Conference Legislative Committee has looked at this issue exhaustivly, and I know I've spoken with Joe Breining, who is the village manager, and Carol Stream. Trustee, one of the differences that you cite, why don't we just privatize all village staff? village staff doesn't work 9 months out of the year and then try to file unemployment for the 3 months during the summer months. That's what originally prompted this, and I think the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference, as well as the other COGs throughout the state of Illinois, tried to pursue a statutory legislative remedy to that and have been unsuccessful. So now we've got this exposure to unemployment claims in the summer months if we have part-time crossing guards.
But at least we hang on to our crossing guards during the summer months so they don't go out maybe and find another job too, and they can come back in September if we're lucky enough.
But they can file an unemployment claim against the village and decrease our rates, Ron, what our experience mod?
Decrease our exposure, yes, our ultimate reimbursement for unemployment. That's only one part. The other part is the administrative costs that we talked about at the Administrative Finance Committee, and the reoccurring difficulty we've had over the last several years in trying to find people to fill these positions. There's a cost associated to that, particularly in the police department. And I appreciate the idea of a mutual aid sort of arrangement, but there still would be some administrative costs to run something like that as well.
And to speak to that, I mean, we've had such a hard time finding people to fill our own sub-positions that if we were even to try to enter into a mutual aid type of scenario, we wouldn't even have enough staff to send to another municipality who was looking for a crossing guard, because we can barely have enough crossing guard staff to fill our own needs.
Like I said, being that I don't see any of our neighboring towns anywhere on this list of who is hired by Andy, it kind of bothers me if we didn't check in to find out how they're surviving. If they're paying unemployment in the summer, or are they volunteers who cross the kids? I don't know.
I wonder if the schools themselves are supplying the crossing guards.
Well, that would be interesting.
Because ours won't.
Well,
the ordinance, if approved, says it's subject to final attorney approval of the contract. We did send red line changes to Andy Frayne, and their counsel is busy and hasn't gotten back to us yet. So if anything, if we're butting heads on any key provisions, this will come back to you if you approve it tonight.
I'm 100% comfortable with it for all of the reasons you stated. And we have a 30-day out. So if it falls apart, we get rid of them.
I'm fine with it. I talked to a Lombard trustee, and they've had no problems. They love the service.
Well, doesn't this give the ones that we have now the capability of actually working in the summertime too?
Yeah, they can do other things.
This gives them the capability of working.
Gives them more opportunities.
Other opportunities,
other than
right.
just crossing guards.
Correct.
Which will keep our Westmont cross guards happy.
So they could
Have you
actually
talked
make
to our Westmont
make more
cross
money.
They haven't, but an opportunity to make more money.
But I have.
They're not excited about an opportunity
The one
to
I
make more
talked
money?
to was not. There was no saying that he would. He didn't know what was offered. He knows nothing about this because they haven't discussed this with our crossing guards.
I think they'd be
So
really
that
excited
kind
about
of
making
drew
more
me
money.
off when this hasn't even been brought up to our crossing guards, any opportunities that they may have.
But the other side of that too is decisions are made every day that affect employees, and the employees are not always talked to
in the process,
or like that, or whatever the process of how it goes. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a sign of the times. Initially, I think all of us were very unsure about this, but after reading it, I mean, Andy Frayne has a very long, distinguished service background. We know that they completely fingerprint all of their applicants.
Yeah, I know.
They go through checks and that. I'm sorry if that's the way some of them feel. I apologize.
I don't know. He didn't know because he didn't know it was coming.
Well, there's a lot of things that happen that we don't know are coming, and it happens. And I mean, we have to deal with it as it goes. But from several cost standpoints of what we're looking at, I just think it's a practical thing to do. And I mean, we do have a 30-day out. We don't like what happens in 30 days. We say, okay, thank you for your service. Bye-bye. We go back to doing what we were doing.
And Trustee Klebanow, to speak of the, I guess, the being told what's going on, Ed Millard, who we've been dealing with from Annie Frayne, has indicated to me that the first thing he will do is sit down with all the current staff at one table at the same time, explain the program, explain the benefits, and offer the conditional job offer from Annie Frayne for our existing staff, and then go through the other options for what Annie Frayne has to offer on the backside of just being a Westmont crossing guard. So that has been conveyed to us.
So these 11, are strictly school crossing guards, but Andy Frayne may have something more local for them to do.
They have other opportunities. I don't know where the opportunities are, but they have a lot of opportunities for them to work beyond the school crossings.
Additional.
Oh, I mentioned that to him as a bonus. So, and the first question is, well, where? Are they paying my gas?
And it's optional to take the additional opportunities.
Sure it is. Right. But we're cutting their hours down, and then we're going to tell them they can go someplace a lot further for a lot of gas. It's just a thought, but I appreciate him going to sit down and talk with them. That'll help, I hope.
One of the other questions, and you mentioned it briefly, Trustee Fleming, is the background checks, which I was very concerned about.
Very thorough.
I think Tom Mulhern, our police chief, went through and listed all the different agencies that look into the backgrounds of these individuals before they're hired. I think they do an exhaustive background check that would be more than what we would do as a village. I believe.
Personally, I think we do a pretty good job on backgrounds, but I think that they're as good.
They listed at least 5 different organizations that are checked. And not saying you don't do a good job, but these people have their little kids walking to school.
True, absolutely.
And we've got to make sure that these people are.
They'll be very well vetted, and again, we still have the squad cars. We still have our school patrols for the officers, so the officers are always at the schools, all the schools in the mornings and afternoons for release. So
right.
we have it covered.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
No.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Loitering ordinance. Or to consider an ordinance rescinding the current loitering ordinance.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Seneca.
Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Next item, flexible spending account agreement. Or to consider an ordinance approving a flexible spending account agreement with Discovery Benefits Incorporated.
Motion to approve, Fleming.
Second, Scott.
Discussion?
Just a quick comment. The attorney modifications were all accepted, with 2 that they came back and modified, and their modifications to those were acceptable to Kathy and to myself. So from staff standpoint, we're comfortable with the agreement.
Anything further? Roll call.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Okay. National Community Planning Month proclamation. Board to consider a proclamation declaring October as Community Planning Month in the Village of Westmont. As I mentioned on Thursday, I would now like to read the proclamation. Community Planning Month proclamation. Whereas change is constant, affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places. And whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live. And whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And whereas the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. And whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. And whereas the American Planning Association and its professional institute, the American Institute of Certified Planners, endorsed National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight the contributions sound planning and plan implementation make to the quality of our settlements and environment. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of our Planning Commission and other citizen planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the Village of Westmont. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by professional community and regional planners of the Village of Westmont and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the month of October 2011 is hereby designated as Community Planning Month in the Village of Westmont in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month. Thank you. Any further questions?
That was a long one.
Thank you. That was a mouthful.
You planners.
Unless there's any further questions, roll call, please.
I don't have a motion.
Motion to approve, Scott. And I'd just like to say what a wonderful planner we have.
Yes, we do.
Second, Nero.
Now we do.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
There's a lot to digest, yes.
Next item, Finance Ordinance number 11.
We have before us on this third day of October a finance ordinance in the amount of $664,942.60.
Motion to approve, Seneca?
Second, Scott.
Discussion?
I did have several of my questions answered. Thank you very much, Ron. I appreciate that. I do question, though, that one for the stop signs now. If Andy Frame is going to do it, let him supply the signs, and I guess those signs will have to go with our EMA then.
Yes, as I indicated in the correspondence, if you want to direct us to return those signs that we don't need, we will like to maintain a couple of them just to have them available.
I'm sure we can use them because we have the trick-or-treat trail and other things, so it'll be fine. It's just kind of ironic that hopefully Andy Frame should be supplying them with everything.
That is part of their agreement that they should provide the equipment.
Okay, then we'll find use for them. Thank you.
Okay.
A motion and a second. Any other questions? Roll call.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Purchase orders.
Motion to approve as a block for $514,294.31.
Second, Fleming.
Discussion?
I have a discussion. We keep seeing the storm damage repairs and stuff. Just off the top, and it probably isn't, but is anything covered under insurance on any of the storm damage stuff? Nothing that we could possibly put in a claim to our insurance?
Not that I'm aware of. I'll double check that with the Public Works Department, but I think, the act of God type of issues involving trees in the parkway, those are not covered.
If it hits our building, it would be, but if it...
Yeah, if we damaged a building,
okay.
Had a vehicle damaged, something like that, there would possibly be coverage, but not if it's just normal work being done as cleanup as part of that storm.
The ones that hit the power lines is not the responsibility of ComEd?
Responsibility in terms of
Chopping up, removing, paying us back for us taking care of maybe, I'm presuming that they just push the tree limbs out of the way and to try to get the new wires restrung,
they have their own crews that do some of that.
Okay.
I know
The chances of ComEd paying anything for anything is nil.
I'm surprised they don't
They
charge us.
made that real clear the night they
They're
were
probably
here.
trying to figure out how they can.
So,
They're not
okay,
paying
it was
for
just a grasping the,
those are good questions. Yes.
Yeah.
so.
Wishful ones.
Yeah.
More wishful than anything else.
One could
Okay.
hope, but
Thank you.
If anyone's listening from ComEd, they might get the idea. Hey, let's start charging.
Gee,
them.
thanks, Pat.
Oh.
Any more money.
yeah, we're not going to get our $3 on the bill, so we're going to go ahead and tack on $4 to remove trees now.
Trees.
So,
Well, we'll just have to charge them for being without power then.
Any other questions on the purchase orders? Roll call, please.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Okay. We do not have a request for executive session this evening. So unless there's something else to come before us, at this time I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Seneca.
Second, Scott.
Roll call.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Fleming.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Thank you. This meeting stands adjourned.